Cloud. Okay, so we are recording. Now, supposedly I had to like clear cookies and stuff to do this last time, so I've done all that. Sharing group. Okay, come on, fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think things will be starting to open up soon too.
I've heard that they might. Oh yeah, I think it's working.
Nice. I'll see if I get a notification on my phone that you're
Hey
live.
Fred, we will actually be live on Facebook this time.
10-4.
Hey Fred.
Hi Diana, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, very good. What are we only 3 right now?
You're not supposed to be here.
I'm not supposed to what?
You're not supposed to be here. Remember when who was it? Rob showed up last time.
Oh right, I'm supposed to go to Facebook. Okay, sorry, I'll do that. Okay, thanks for notifying me. I'll get on there. Take care, guys.
Ciao, Fred. Have a good day.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, now that he's gone. All right. And that's obviously all going to be recorded, so it might end up being part of this. Oh well. Check that your stream go live. Okay.
Technology.
Yeah, so far so good. Things are moving. It says redirecting to Facebook Live page.
Oh, yeah. No, I just got a notification that you are now live and it's now streaming live on Facebook.
Okay, all right. We are there. Wonderful. Okay, so good morning. Jody?
You speaking.
Good morning.
How are you doing? It is what is May 5th. We've been stuck in for quite a while. How are you?
I'm good. I'm actually starting to get used to the new normal. What's scary is I don't even want to go out of my car anymore.
That's okay. It's good for the environment, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would love to see the stats on that side of this is, how much carbon is being offset, like carbon footprint and yeah.
I think I read a quick stat this morning that the levels of car type pollution in the air are lower than they were before World War II. So we're doing well with that. We just need to stay that. All right. So thank you for joining us this morning. Just real quick before we kind of dig in too much, for anybody who may be watching potentially outside of our CrossFit Closer community and they don't know who you are, do you want us to give a little, or do you want to give us a little, who is Diana? How did you get here?
So Diana Ozarko, I am I guess I'm considered a master's athlete. Started CrossFit 6 years ago-ish, I think, with you. Kind of fell into competing because growing up, I always did individual sports, started swimming, did some swimming competitively. Honestly, found I put so much stress on myself that I didn't enjoy the competitive aspect of it. So just started doing a lot of different sports, wanted to do CrossFit, did the open, my scores were good. And I think it was probably you, maybe at the time, Jeff, Elsie, all started saying, if you redid a couple of workouts, you would have been top 200. And then I got into top 200 and then started doing competitions. And yeah, here I am today having fun.
So for those who don't know, you finished this year in terms of, if we're talking placements and numbers and all that kind of stuff, this was your best finish.
Last year I finished better. Last year, in 2019, I finished, I think it was 14 worldwide. This year I finished 17 worldwide for over 50. Yes.
Just to give a little bit of perspective, do you have any idea how many people are in that age category? How many are you competing against that you're finishing 17th and 14th?
According to the stats, it's somewhere between 7 to 10,000.
It's pretty good.
Oops.
For those who don't know Diana, she's pretty fit. Let's do this. So let's go back a little bit because I know that obviously we have had many conversations. You started before CrossFit. What does your exercise history look like from the beginning?
Ooh, from the beginning. So I blame it on my father. I would say he was a competitive football player. Mom, I didn't get her genes because she ran marathons, and we all know how I feel about running. They had us actively involved in every sport. They wanted us to be well-versed in sports, in music and arts, in etiquette. So we were always busy kids. We were always skiing, downhill or cross country, biking, swimming, golfing. They would go golfing. They'd shove us out of pool for the day and we'd learn to swim. So from there, I started lifeguarding, teaching swimming, randomly got into a lot of dance. So from there, got into fitness, taught fitness from the time I was 16 to now. And then just basically wanted someone else to kick my ass and yell at me instead of me always yelling at my participants. And that's how I got into CrossFit. A girlfriend told me about it and loved it from day one. It was exactly what I was looking for. Yeah.
That's a pretty long fitness journey. You definitely could be considered an OG, as they say. Let's do this. So before CrossFit, obviously in swimming and whatnot, you would have had a coach, but in that interim period where you started teaching fitness up to CrossFit, from 16 to what, 48-ish?
Yeah.
Like 32 years. Did you have a coach or were you always doing the coaching? And if not, once you started receiving some coaching from CrossFit, did anything change? And if so, what was that?
Oh man, so much changed. Yeah, as a group fitness instructor, you have to do a certain amount of continuing education. So I would go to conferences, but as far as one-on-one coaching, no, you're in a group. My assessment programs was a couple of times a year, I would have to send a video of me teaching, and I would get constructive criticism that way from head office, or a regional manager would come in and assess me. But those were far and few between. And yeah, when I started CrossFit, I went from, here in my fitness career, being the big, strong, tough instructor. And I walked into Closer thinking I was, going to crush it. And there's all these young little puppies just out lifting. You were yelling at me at the way I was squatting. My knees were caving in. I didn't have glute activation. You shoved me in a corner one time doing snatches and said, you just have to hip thrust for a while to get your glutes going. So yeah, and that's what I love about it is this list of what you need to improve on. And I'm still improving on everything. So a lot changed once I started.
Yeah, receiving a little bit of coaching, not necessarily on your coaching, but on your actual exercise, on your movement itself is a different thing.
Absolutely. And I would say it was probably harder for you guys. You guys were probably banging, you probably still do, banging your heads against a wall because I've had 30 years of muscle memory movement patterns that you've been having to break down through the years.
But it's definitely more challenging to teach someone with habits than starting from scratch, for sure. Yeah. Why? Let's go with why. Why compete? Right? I mean, a lot of people do CrossFit, and then there's a small percentage that there's a pretty good percentage that, do the open, that'll do those online competitions. But then there's a small percentage that take it pretty seriously and will go to competitions and will, program their training based on this and that and have goals for them of competition. Why do that?
I don't know if I necessarily have the competitive mindset of, I don't know if I'm as hungry as some of the other women my age or younger, right, for competing. I kind of fell into it intrinsically. I love Wadapalooza. It was so fun to see other ladies my age and just how strong they were versus, the standard of what I see around town, right? And so it's really inspirational to watch these ladies. And for me personally, it's just, I want to see where I fit, how I can be the best I can be. And that's kind of how I fell into it.
Yeah. So it's less, for you, it's less about seeing if I can beat those other people and just what's the route that I can take that will force me to get the best that I can be as fast as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Why is that important to you? Why be the best? I mean, I work out 3 days a week for an hour or so, and like I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
What happens in your brain that I don't get that takes you from hey, I'm fit, I'm healthy, I'm doing the things that I need to do to have the type of life that I want, to I'm going to put in that extra work and really dedicate myself to this. What happens in between there?
I think it's a type A personality. I think I'm really probably OCD, and it's because it's not just CrossFit. It's not just this competition. I want to be the best fitness instructor I can possibly be. I want to be the best at my job that I can possibly be. And I see it every year, where I'm making like a top 10% or top rep in companies. And it's my anal type A personality, right? That I push and want to strive for something better and but also be really happy with the journey that I'm going on. I'm having fun, right? It's really fun to see how much you can push your body and how at 50, I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life, and enjoy what you do. Because as my father used to say, the second you don't enjoy it, walk away, right? Because that's when it becomes a job, whatever aspect of your life it is.
I think that's huge, and that potentially is the difference between longevity in a sport and being able to give it a go for a little while. If you are having fun, I think your ability to stick with it is probably there for longer. I'm assuming there are days that aren't fun, right? It's not always sunshine and rainbows. I think you. Of all the people that I've spoken to, you do a great job of staying positive and not letting, adversity. You've had some challenges through this process, at least since I've known you, since you've been doing CrossFit. There have been injuries, there have been whatnot. What happens when it's not fun or when there's a barrier in your way? How do you reconcile that? What is your thought process for getting through that and ending up on the other side in a better place?
I think, and this will probably, I think it's a lot of it is mindset, right? Everything is mindset. And you wake up every morning with a choice, and everything in your life is a choice. And you choose if you're going to be happy, and you choose if you're going to be sad. And I don't believe in ever living my life with regret. And I truly believe that every day is a gift. And I think the more, hardships that you have, whether it was my parents dying, whether it was, breaking my foot, whether it's losing friends to cancer, or some people would look at those as maybe a victim personality, where I just think, okay, what am I going to learn from this? How is this going to make me better? And I know that when I broke my foot, it made me a much better A, athlete, and B, it made me a much better person and instructor, because I could understand that you know, I don't know what's going on when someone walks in the door. So just be kind, right? And just understand where they're moving at that time. And so when things are crappy, I never think, oh my God, I'm going to have a really bad day. I'm like, well, that was a crappy day. Wake up tomorrow and it'll be different, you know? And that's the journey. The journey is never linear.
Yeah. Have you always been like that? Has your mind always said when there's a challenge there, hey, I have a choice to make here? Or is that a learned response? Is that something that you've gotten better at over time?
I definitely is something that I've gotten better at over time. I was always a happy kid. But you know, just the perfectionism that I have in my career and in what I did, I would be really hard on myself and everyone around me when I was young. And I wouldn't take time to smell the roses because I was always looking at something better. And then when my dad died, it taught me a little bit about the fragility of life. You know, living with him when he was really sick and just watching the degradation of the body. And then when my mom died, it was even more. And just, I think through that time, I've just started to really embrace being happy. Yeah. And, you know, as soon as you change that perception, as soon as you make that shift, I don't have a whole lot of bad days. Yeah.
I got two questions from that. First is, do you think that, you know, a lot of people, and myself included, would like to be able to watch something like this and take like a silver bullet away, take like, oh, Diana takes this pill in the morning and as a result, she's fit and she's happy and life is perfect. I want to do that. I'm looking for that. And I think obviously that's not the way these things work. So, where was I going? Let's do this. So is there something that, I remember where I was going. Take it back. So, you know, you're kind of mentioning that a lot of that realization that, hey, I've only got so much time, I can make these decisions, came from, let's say, hardship, right? It came from loss, it came from experience. So you could call this wisdom, right? You've been through some things, and as a result, you understand that this is the way that life works. And as a result, I should make these changes because I've only got so much time and life is fragile. Is it possible to learn those lessons without that experience? Or is experience the real teacher? Can I just learn from you and actually apply that? That, hey, I know that because Diana's been through this and she's learned that lesson, that I can apply it. Or is it very likely that I need to go through that shit myself?
Well, you know, I would say it depends on the person. Me personally, I am stubborn as anything. So I would only learn through experience. You know, yeah. But hey, man, if someone can, you know, there was my girlfriend who was really fighting with her job and hating her job. And, you know, I did my cliche, change your perception, change your reality. And I sort of said, listen, this is what you've got. The grass isn't always greener. You know, just look and be happy with what you've got. And I don't know, it helped her, but I think it's like meditation. It's like yoga. You're ready to hear the words and you're ready to make the changes when you are ready.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And not before.
Yeah. And then even once you're ready, time to start practicing. Anything like this.
Yeah.
Time out. Hello? Are we back?
I think I'm back. Yeah. I got
okay.
You. So yeah, you sounded like a little broken record. Thankfully, you know, my country internet picked up again. So it was putting it into practice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's probably a good point to make in general, because people could look at someone like yourself or another top athlete and, you know, the old idea that, oh, they were born with this advantage or they were a prodigy or a natural. And, you know, the way that I see it is underneath that, when you look at somebody who you think is a natural, they've put in a ton of work. And I think in general, that applies to everything, right? It applies to fitness. It applies to working on your mindset. It applies to, you know, calming your mind if you want to create a new habit. But it's about putting in the work. And I think, you know, we could look at you and be like, oh, well, I can't do that because Diana's blessed in some way. But you've put in, I mean, you've been working out since you were 14, right? I mean, it's been a few years.
One or two, yeah. And it's, you know, and you see at the gym, I'm always, you know, there's always something that I'm trying to work at, and I'm always trying to put in the extra work. And when I decided to, you know, maybe see where I could go, and if could I get to the games, and could I get into the top at 50 when I hit that new decade. I also did a lot of webinars and podcasts on performance mindset training.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, you take little snippets from everything that you learn, right? And try and embrace that.
Let's maybe dig into that a little bit. So, you know, because you have learned all these things, you probably have some good techniques for this. What do you do when you have doubt? And it doesn't even need to be fitness or competition related, but you're working on something and you start to doubt your ability to complete it or achieve it, or somebody else has.
No.
How do you? Oh, you're missing this one. Is it? Hello.
Okay, sorry. Okay, am I back now?
Yeah, I got you.
Sorry.
That question?
So self-doubt.
Yes.
And someone else has self-doubt in me. How do I deal with that?
Forget the other person. We'll stick with you doubt. How do you get through that? Or do you?
Well, you know, when things are really bad, when, you know, if it's not I have doubt this very second and I have time to think about things, what I'll usually do is I'll write out the pros and cons. And I will, you know, kind of sort of flowchart things and say, okay, what's the absolute worst that can happen? And usually the worst isn't very bad, right? And then you're like, oh, okay, I can deal with this.
Yeah. Would you say, as a general, call it life coping mechanism, oftentimes when we get in our heads and we get emotionally attached to certain things and get thrown off, that a logical approach is generally a good way to kind of get us back on track and write it out and look at the numbers or look at the objective pieces of it?
Yes, 100%.
Is that a strategy that you would say that you use in other aspects as well of your life?
I think so. I mean, my background is, I'm a scientist, right? I was a research scientist before I got into sales. And as a scientist, you're an analyst. So even though I might seem like I'm very, you know, I go by spontaneity, there's usually a lot of thoughts that are going through my brain all the time, and I'm always analyzing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And would you say that when you're able to do that process and write down the pros and cons, it calms the anxiety and allows you a better place to move forward?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I used to call, when you get flustered like that, spinning your wheels, right?
Yeah.
And if you're just spinning your wheels round and round and round and round, you're never going to get anywhere. So just stop, take a breath, look at the pros and cons, say what's the absolute worst. And, you know, it's that knowledge is power. And once you know what the worst is in anything, you know that it's really not that bad. You're going to overcome it. So don't doubt it. One step at a time and you'll get there.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. And it's perfect for right now as well, that it's the fear and the uncertainty that's making everybody freak out. If we knew that, hey, I mean, speaking specifically about the virus, that it's going to be this is going to happen, this is when we're going to get back to life, these are the steps we're going to take, everybody would feel a lot more calm about it. I think that's true. If you can create, less uncertainty in your mind, that's probably going to help you move forward.
Yes, absolutely.
This was a question that was asked by one of the, you got me here? We're still
Yep.
going. You can approach this from a mindset standpoint, from a understanding of fitness and your goals standpoint. Really approach it however you want. But what's changed in terms of your journey over the decades, in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s and now your 50s? How have you evolved as an athlete, as a person? What does that look like?
I think anyone as they get older will say it's confidence.
Okay.
Right? You know yourself so well, and your confidence just always gets better and better and better, and you just get stronger. And maybe it's the hardships. I don't call them hardships, I call them opportunities, right? There's no challenge, there's only opportunities. And my first sales manager taught me that. And it's another one of my little cliched thinkings that I do when the going gets tough, right? It's the older you get, the more opportunities you've had to overcome and learn and grow. So yeah, when I was in my 20s, I was teaching internationally. I was presenting internationally for fitness. I was working for Club Med, just having fun, being at the top of my fitness career there, and, stayed with it. 30s and 40, like 30 is pretty much the same. 40s is when I started to really change and really develop, probably more as an athlete. And when I started at Closer, I remember talking with you about competitions, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not competitive at all. I'm not competitive at all. Here I am.
You used a word there, and I know that we had very briefly chatted before we started recording this about, and this is a quote, you had said, I'm not an athlete, or I don't consider myself an athlete, or it was something along the lines of that. And I think probably everybody listening to this is going, what the fuck are you talking about? Sorry for not censoring that. What's an athlete then? If you're not an athlete, what's an athlete, and what does that mean to you?
See, my dad was an athlete. He was a pro football player. Okay. He made a lot of money doing something that he really loved. I'm a fitness buff, and I don't know, maybe it's because I don't take it quite as seriously. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I guess I am making money doing fitness, so that should be an athlete, but and there are some international things, but I look at an athlete as, Matt Fraser, Tia Claire Toomey.
Good luck to everybody else being an athlete. Okay. Yeah, I think obviously perspective and the way we look at things is all up to us. I would definitely see things a little differently. I think anybody that is moving their body and being athletic and working out, we consider athletes. But I mean, you obviously have a higher standard for what that means. Well, good for you.
I'd say we're all into fitness, right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
What you mentioned earlier that when you were swimming, you didn't like the competitive aspect of it. How is this different than that? Because still a very individual sport. It's still on you to put in the time and compete. Is that you as a person that has changed, or is it the activity? What do you think is different there?
I think it's me as a person, growing into a little bit more self-confidence, and a couple of comments along the way that were made that made an impact to me. Even a couple that were really recent. I just, back then it was the fear of failing. It's fear, right? It's the fear of not being there for your teammates, of not winning the meet. And it was always win, 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 right? Versus just doing the sport. And, even doing Wadapalooza, there was so much support from everybody, and there were so many comments that stuck out. But there were two conversations that I had. One was with Fred, and one was with Dan. And at one point I voiced my fears to Fred. I'm like, oh my God, there's so many people coming to Miami. I'm terrified. What if I do crappy? And we all know some of them didn't go so well. But, Fred just sort of looked at me. He was like, Diana, it's inspirational to see that you just got there. Who cares how you did? And that was kind of a change in perception. And then Dan, when I came back, telling me how his kids were watching me when they live streamed, and they were just so in awe. And I was like, wow, it doesn't matter the outcome. I'm helping people. If I can get more people happy and active, and if I can inspire someone to be fit, then man, I've done my job.
Yeah. So there's definitely a transition in mindset there from back in the swimming days.
Absolutely.
So I think this isn't necessarily a question. I think it's just a little point to be made for anybody who's potentially watching and thinking about, it's still in that mindset of like, oh, well, that's Diana, and these are the things that come naturally to her, and I can't be there or whatever. You were just talking about that leading up to Wadapalooza, there was this, oh my God, like, what if all these people come to watch and it doesn't go well? So just to show that you are a human being and that you do have real person doubts and, sometimes need some support or whatever, I think is just comforting for the rest of us, because, like, hey, it's okay. It's okay to have some doubts, and, there are ways to work through this, rely on maybe some support from the people who are around you and that are there for that. And then take what you've got and kind of move forward with it all together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think too, voicing your fears, instead of internalizing that, just kind of voicing it takes the edge off.
Yeah, it can be freeing a little bit.
Yeah.
Sure. One more question from Facebook, and then I have my own personal question. The one question there was, what is going through, so you're like there, we're on competition day, you are like lined up, getting ready to go kind of thing. What's going through your head like last minute, like 3, 2, 1, go? What's happening there? Are you going through your strategy for the workout? Are you going, holy shit? Are you going, woo? Like what's going on in your head?
Oh man, and we'll go back to Wadapalooza, because that was, the biggest competition I've ever done. And the first workout was, I must have, sorry, not censored, ran to the bathroom at least 8 times within 30 minutes. And I was just like, oh, good Lord, I'm going to die here. And the butterflies were terrible. And I was, so nervous, and my mouth was dry, and I was like, oh, good God, what's going to happen? And then went into this, performance mindset training. And I thought, okay, you've got to stop the bad thoughts. You've got to breathe. You've got to breathe into your belly. You've got to hold your breath in there. You've got to like slow the breathing down, and that's going to calm you down. And what I say to my instructors as I'm working with them and training them, I said, butterflies are good. It means you care. And so embrace the butterfly, because the second you don't have butterflies anymore, you don't care anymore. So there's like negative and there's positive, and they're always yelling at me every workout I do, right? And it's just shutting up the negative and just constantly saying, that first workout, I thought, okay, Diana, it's game time. You've done everything you can do. You're as ready as you can do. And then the 3, 2, 1, all of a sudden, I don't hear, I don't see the crowd. I just do my job. I don't even see the competitors a lot. I just kind of like, okay, this is my time. It's just another workout.
Yeah. So leading up to the 3, 2, 1 go can be a little bit nerve-wracking, but once it's time, like that switch turns and we're on, Do you find that I think that's the theme today is that like practice makes permanent. Do you find that the more, so even just throughout that weekend at Wadapalooza, that each workout as you got, lined up in the corral or whatever, that anxiety decreased, or was that always there at the same level?
Oh yeah, no, it was the first workout. The first workout was terrible. And then after that, I kind of embraced the butterflies. They weren't as bad. I was excited. I was like, okay, I'm ready. Okay, I've warmed up. I listened to what Jeff would tell me to do. I'm like, okay, this is my strategy. And I was like, okay, I've done everything, right? I was as ready as I could possibly be. So, yeah.
Could we translate that to general life and say that oftentimes something uncomfortable just requires the breaking of the seal, that just like getting into it, and then once you're there. So for an example, you live on the river, when the water is cold, it's just about getting in, and then once you're in, it's easier. Would you say that that's pretty common in most things that we are nervous about or scared, that just like once you start it, it's generally easier to keep going?
Yes, 100%.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Personal question now. You always, I haven't known you ever to be somebody who's not smiling and having fun and at least from the outside looking happy. The world is full of depression, anxiety. People are more and more so struggling with that. First of all, like, what is happiness and how do you do it?
Whew, geez, that's a deep one, Adam. Oh my God. Yeah, happiness is a choice, right? It really is. You can wake up cranky and you can have the worst day of your life, and it's like road rage. You can go out in your car and you can get really cranky that someone cut you off. I live on the road and I'm like, well, if I get cranky, I'm just ruining my day. I'm not ruining their day, right? And I'm just going to get myself freaked out. So yeah, you're a stupid driver, and okay, I'll just back up a little bit more, right? So, and that's, again, it's a choice. And I think that happiness is a choice that we make. And I wake up happy. And I've always been. I really sympathize with people that suffer from depression and don't have that glass half full. But I don't understand it because I've been lucky enough to never have to grapple with that.
Yeah, I think if we follow the trend that we've been following kind of in general here, that we could probably extrapolate that, at first when you're making the decision to be happy, you're kind of faking it. And this is obviously starting from a place where, you're not. And then over time, that decision to be happy becomes easier, and then it eventually becomes more and more real.
Yep, absolutely. One guy that got me into sales, he was like, I don't care how crappy your day is. You walk through the door, you smile, and you don't stop smiling. And you don't ever tell anybody about how crappy your day is. Keep that at home. And he's like, even if you don't mean it, you smile, because then you mean it. And it's true. You just, you turn your frown upside down and then you're happy. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you say that, and obviously, a lot of this you haven't really struggled with, but would you believe that the phrase fake it till you make it is effective in something like that?
Yep.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah. Like you hear that oftentimes from people in sales.
Yeah. Yeah. And even, when my mom died, I definitely grieved for her. I need to keep busy. But Jody could vouch for me. I would run around and I would work out and I pretend to be happy all day long. And I would come home and I would cry myself to sleep for, I don't know, I want to say 2-3 months.
Yeah.
Right.
And then how do you get out of something like that?
You just it's the fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah.
You know, the pain gets a little bit less, and then you just enjoy your life and you play with your dogs and you do things that make you happy. And, you know, going to this whole COVID thing, some of the things that are happening right now make me really angry. And so I don't listen to the updates because I don't really want to be angry. So I'm just going to live in my own little world.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think that's a good point, that like, you know, there's definitely there's value in, you know, hitting your challenges head on, or your fears or whatever, and addressing them. But, you know, I think there's definitely times, or, you know, places in our lives where, you know, we need that, you'd call it a reset. You know, we're not in as strong a place, and it's just, hey, just get yourself out of the way of all of those distractions and allow yourself to reset, as opposed to trying to work through other things that you could get out of the way and make that journey a little bit easier. I don't know if that was super clear. Does that kind of make sense?
Yep. Yeah.
Let's do this. I think we've been chatting for a little while here, and there's been an excellent amount of great content for everybody. But let's do this. If you were to give, you know, some advice to, I feel like we've hit so many like real good life lessons here that there may not be anything left. But like, if you were to give some advice, let's do this for an easier one, to your younger self. Let's say to yourself in your, well, I'm going to let you choose. In a challenging time in your 20s or 30s, what advice would you give your younger self?
Well, you know, and it always seems so cliche, right? I would basically say it's not a challenge, it's an opportunity, it's a growing experience. You only grow, and you grow the most when you go through hardship, right? You always come out the other side stronger, better. I would probably challenge anyone to say, any time that they've gone through a really crappy time, when they've gotten through it, they'll come out stronger and better. And just know that, and trust it, and enjoy the journey, because it's not about the destination. It's just about every step of the journey along the way, whether it's, you know, whether it's fitness, whether it's career, whether it's life. It's, you know, I'm loving CrossFit because I'm loving the journey. I'm hating handstand walks sometimes, but I've got them now. So, you know, that's part of the journey, and it's, you know, ring dips, stupid things.
You've sparked another follow-up on that. Sorry, I was going to make that the last question, but I got excited. So you said there that, you know, it's that we learn and we grow from facing and overcoming challenges and obstacles. Is it great towards those obstacles intentionally to gain that experience and grow, or is that maybe a little too much, in your opinion? Also, am I still here? You still got me?
Yeah, you're still here. You're back again. Am I still here? Yeah. Yeah, no, I
resistance, or go towards that challenge if there's a choice. Does it depend?
Yeah. Oh man, I don't know if I think the general way that people would probably be avoid a lot of the confrontation, avoid a lot of the hardships, right? I'm certainly not going to be bullheaded and go towards a hard time on my own giving. I'd rather go the easy route. I think everyone would, but so I don't, yeah. Sorry, got nothing deep to say on that one.
Could you maybe say that that it depends on the situation? That, you know, you choose the areas in your life in which, you know, maybe a little bit of challenge would be helpful, because I'm not great at overcoming challenges in that area. And in this area, you know what, like, I'm fine with, you know, say if finances, I don't want to learn the hard way. Let me read a book and learn that way. But in
Yeah.
terms of this, I know that I probably should have that tough experience. So, and if so, if there are different areas where you should make those different choices, how do you know which one? Is that a better question?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say if you gear it towards fitness, it's easy. Train your weaknesses till they're a strength.
Yeah.
And so I guess in life I would probably move it to the same thing and say, okay, for something like, finances or anything like that, you train your weakness till it's your strength, whether it's gaining knowledge and however you want to gain your knowledge. But if it's, looking for a really bad hardship, just so you can say you've walked down that road,
yeah,
may not be the best idea.
Yeah. Yeah. You may be setting yourself up for heartache that was unnecessary.
Yeah.
Sure. Cool. Any little bits of like parting advice for anybody who may be listening here? Anything you just want to share that, hey, I learned this lesson the hard way, and I hope that nobody has to go through it, or a little bit of advice that, someone has told you that has really rung true, or, yeah, and don't feel pressured here. I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot there.
Yeah, I would just say, it's the good old self-love, and be really kind to yourself. And if you struggle with depression, or if you struggle with, any type of decision, it's just work on little changes, changing your perspective, and just be really, really kind. That it's not, you're going to have good days, bad days, and you just hope for the day you have more good than bad.
And that can be trained as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I am extremely grateful for you sharing your story, and some tips and tricks, and maybe some tough love with us. I hope everybody else got from this what I was able to, and if not, well, too bad. It was good for me. And thank you very much, and I hope you're staying safe, and you continue to do so. And we really look forward to seeing you when life is back to normal.
I know, me too. I miss you guys too. So hopefully we'll be back at the gym soon.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, and have a wonderful day. And everybody who's watching, thank you very much, Diana.
Thanks, Adam.
Great.
Bye now.
Take care.